Hi everyone, my name is Sarah and welcome back to Everyday Consent. Today we have a wonderful consent chat with my good friend Xanda. Xanda, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Xanda, I'm PGP She, and I am pansexual, and I'm currently in a long-term relationship. If you are somebody who works with me, or you are a family member of mine, say a parent, this might not be a great video for you to watch because I am going to talk about sex. It's gonna be about sex and me, so maybe just
Would you like them to not watch, or do you think they might feel uncomfortable watching?
I think it's both.
Okay, cool. So just keep that in mind.
Yes, please don't. Click that.
Clicking the other things. What does consent mean to you?
Consent for me means being excited about doing something, or wanting to do something, and having explicitly expressed that you want to do something. I feel like in my life it's always been when somebody has explicitly expressed that they want to do something or continue doing something, whether it's out of curiosity or out of just being really happy with whatever's going on right now. So there's a bunch of different reasons why, but wanting to do something and continuing to say so, or express in some other way that is clearly distinguishable.
Do you have any creative ways that you have come up with to give or ask for consent?
Creative ways.
Or just like fun?
I feel like I'm not sure that it's necessarily creative at all, but one of the things that I think is really nice about doing a relationship for a long time is eventually, if you start getting used to it, you can cut through, I think, all of the weird norms that make it weird to ask for consent for a lot of people, and you can get to some nice points where you can just be like, hey, I don't want to go to sleep yet. Can we have sex now? and just be able to do that. I mean, like, you can do sexy talk. That took me a really long time to get used to, but once you get used to dirty talk, that's a really good way to ask for consent. It's like, I can think of some examples. I'm not going to say them right now, but sometimes being very explicit in the can I do blank and blank and blank and blank can be very, very good for encouraging someone to say, yes, you can do exactly that right now. And I feel like that's always a fun conversation to have, especially if you come up with something sufficiently creative that the response is eyebrow raise, and then yes.
That sounds like
yes. Yes, you can do that. So I feel like that's one thing, or I think both sides of that, the dirty talk kind of fun, like let me ask you whether you want to do something really explicit that I know that just talking about it is kind of a sexy thing to do. And if you're into that, then I know we're good. And then on the other hand, the very casual, like in your sweatpants at 2 a.m. and just can't fall asleep yet, kind of like, hey, you know what we could be doing right now. And I feel like that's kind of fun too. Like once you realize that it's like this doesn't have to be a sort of like weird game that we're playing. We can be very open about what we want. And I think that's a lot of fun sometimes. There's a couple of situations where we will give consent in advance for something that might be a surprise.
Interesting.
And that's always something that I've been a little bit scared of doing.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, so one thing that I know I think is kind of an interesting and weird territory to get into is giving blowjobs to somebody who's asleep to wake them up. And this is one of those things where at one point somebody asked whether I wanted it several years ago, and my response was, oh my god, no. Oh my god, no. No, that's so scary. What do you want? No, none of that. Because that's a weird way to wake up if you're not expecting that.
Okay.
But then I talked to a bunch of guys, and over time I realized I think it might just be a penetration versus non-penetration sort of maybe feeling of it. It's less invasive in a way. But they were super down for it. And over time it's sort of been like, okay, well, if I can establish with you very clearly and ask several times at different points in time while sober in advance and say, is this a thing that you would think is cool? And usually the response is, yeah. Then that's a really fun thing to do at one point, and usually it gets a really positive response. But it always is sort of it's a fuzzy area because the thing is sometimes they're still sort of waking up, and they might not necessarily actually be happy with it once they're awake on the way. I know there was at least one time I've done that where they were sufficiently asleep for the whole thing that they didn't really remember that it happened.
Ooh.
And I was like, well, is it okay? I'm sorry, that was a thing that did happen. They were like, oh, I'm sure it was great. I'm fine with it, but it's weird when somebody isn't totally aware to do that kind of thing. But if you know that it's gonna, like, if you're pretty positive within tiny bit of uncertainty that it's gonna be a good thing for them, maybe it's okay.
Yeah.
It's an important communication thing to get around, and I think it took me a long time to feel comfortable enough that the yes was a consistent yes over like a month or so before I actually was willing to try doing anything like that.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. This is actually something that a couple different people have asked me about. Basically the same exact question of just like, can it really be consent if you've gotten it beforehand and they're not actually awake?
I think I think that's true when you're drinking as well. If you're like, yes, I want to sleep with you later, and then you drink a bunch, and I think there is a lot of confusion on that, and it's good that there is a lot of confusion on that. I think that's
true. I think it's good that like it is something that we feel we need to discuss and figure out.
Yeah,
because I think it is very situation dependent.
Yeah, and I think I wish that I had a better answer than you kind of get it probabilistically by checking a bunch of different times beforehand and then checking afterwards and making sure that everything was responded to the way that you thought, that they were still happy about it. Because like if they've said yes a bunch of times and it was something that they weren't that happy about, and they say no and you never do it again, that's probably going to have less of a bad impact than if you're mentioned it one time, 1 month later having never mentioned it again, it happens and they're like, whoa, wasn't ready for that. And so no, it's not perfect, and I wish that there was a better way to do it, but it can be really fun, and if you feel like you have enough certainty and they're really okay with you trying it sometime and you have checked recently, maybe it's okay.
And I think an important part is just being able to each time have a conversation about it. Because one of the people that asked me about this also mentioned that like is fine with telling her partners to like slap her on the ass whenever they feel like it, but someday she doesn't feel like it. And I've actually experienced the same thing, because like, you know, like sometimes I'm really fine with that and I like the spontaneity, but some days I'm just like, whoa, like I do not feel happy about that. And so it's yeah, and so I think for myself in those circumstances, I feel like it's fine in general, but I do feel the need to like talk to my partner and say like, hey, I didn't really feel okay about that just then.
Yeah. And I think that's why it's really nice to have things like, to have your stop words ready in advance and to have a yellow in your 3-color scheme, or if you have other more fun words. Although I really like the traffic light system. Yeah, having a yellow so that, because you can yawn and say yellow at the same time. That's like, that's a duo. So I feel like it's not a perfect system, but that's why this is hard. It's a hard thing to do, and as long as you're talking constantly, which is just in general, talking constantly is a good thing to do. Like, I've been in a relationship for over 2 and something years now. We still occasionally do new things, or we do things that we've done before, but we check in again and make sure that it's okay. And it is really nice to do that. I've been in other longer relationships where we just stop talking after a while and assume, well, this is our routine, it's fine. And some days it's good, and other days you're like thinking about like what you have to do tomorrow, and you're like, this is kind of uncomfortable, let's just get this over with. And that's not
fun.
It's like, it's not that it's necessarily the most uncomfortable case of not having consent. It's just, it's not really fun for anyone. And it can go kind of downhill fast and can affect other parts of your life if you're not really talking about that stuff. So we talk a lot, and I think it's really good to talk a lot. And I think all of the relationships that I've had that go really well are ones where we keep talking about it. We keep being like, maybe we should try a new thing, or maybe not.
Yeah.
Today is a boring day. Let's do something boring.
Yeah, because boring is fine sometimes.
Yeah, boring is nice.
Have you ever been asked for consent in a way that you thought was particularly sexy?
Yeah, and I think that's sort of where I picked up the tendency to try to ask with very long, explicit requests. Because I feel like whenever that's happened, I've always been like, that thing you just described right there, that sounds really nice.
Yeah.
With all of the little details, because just being like, hey, you want to have sex? Like, yeah, sure, okay, but hey, you want to elaborate plan for how we're going to do something slightly risque, but apparently very, very fun for me, it sounds like. I'll be like, yeah, and if they're like, how about I do this thing next, I'll be like, yeah, this is good. Cool. I haven't known that many people who've actually done that particularly well. I think it's people who are uncomfortable talking about bits.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to talk.
Bits and the bobs.
Yeah. As soon as you're comfortable talking about bits, that procedure gets much easier.
Yeah.
You're like, I will do this explicit thing to this explicit part of your body. So generally, I find that I stick to relatively classic names for bits, like pussy, or dick, or boob. Because I feel like I'm somebody who laughs and is a klutz while I'm doing sexy things, but I do know that in the past I've had experiences where I've said something and I tried to say something explicit and I used words that were not normal words to use for certain things, and somebody started laughing. And when you get laughed at a little bit, it's like it's not bad. You can laugh along with it, but you're like, oh no, that didn't work. Okay, I guess I'll stop trying that this time. I'll figure that out. I'll skip to that later. I'll figure it out. It'll be okay. But it does sort of push you down a little bit. So sticking to some comfortable ones until you figured out how to say things that aren't as comfortable is good. And I just sort of settled into it. It's good now. It works well. Oh, that's the other thing about doing things consensually and well, is it is very nice to find someone, if you are a klutz like me in bed, it is good to find someone else who is very comfortable with being a klutz in bed. I know that one of the things that I would have happen is there are some people I have dated who would laugh whenever I bumped teeth. That's a thing.
Oh god.
Every single time.
It's always so uncomfortable.
And I remember that one of the things that was really good with the relationship that I'm in now is early on we liked each other a lot, and we started making out one time, and our teeth bumped together, and we both looked at each other, and we smiled, and we didn't stop at all. And it didn't matter at all, and we were both like, that was funny, that we'd screwed that up. But it wasn't something where either of us were embarrassed, or either of us were like, oh, that was me, that was my bad. It was just like oh yeah, we're very enthusiastic about this today. Okay.
I just don't even have time to laugh at this. Let's just go. Let's just go.
It's like, this is just, we're just into this. This is just a sign we're into this. No damage done, fun.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, like, laughter in my experience too can go any number of ways, and usually like I kind of embrace it as a very positive thing. It's actually kind of nice, like if it's been a little bit quiet, to just like, oh, whoops.
Yeah.
Whoops.
That was one of the reasons why the tone in my relationship right now is something where we talk about things.
Yeah.
It's because we were comfortable earlier on. We like, one of us would screw something up, the other one would laugh, but not in a, oh, wow, that thing you did, kind of way, which has actually happened to me. Yeah, there are some butt heads in the world, but this happens. But that we could do that, and that made it so that later on we were like, okay, this person is comfortable making mistakes. I'm comfortable making mistakes. I can make requests. I can even make requests that maybe later on I decide actually that was a dumb request to make, and we'll stop that for now. And we're going to be cool with it. And I feel like that tone started with the bumping teeth and laughing at each other. So it was good.
Bumping teeth and laughing at each other is the secret to a happy relationship. So.
Yeah. The thing that I'm going to do now is this step, and then this step, and then this step, and then I have this like lacy thing, and and that usually this is highly encouraged.